Okay, so today will be sort of the deep dive episode into the Barrens, and it kind of evokes my whole joke about like Duratar and how much time I spent there. Like, if you play it like this, each zone can constitute like if Duratar was a single player RPG, it would have been pretty long and pretty good. It took me like 20 plus hours to beat, by which I mean exploring everything, talking to everybody. Like if you do it like a completionist single player playthrough, the way that I play single player games or anything. So imagine that with the Barrens. Now I guess the cop out there is it's really a three race zone, in the sense that whenever I make him stand in his place, like I made him sit on the rug like he's sleeping there, using like the eyes of the beast, clearly the intended purpose of the ability, just so that it could look like he's sleeping and I'm sleeping, because before he would be all fidgety before I learned that, and he would never look like he's comfortable at night. But the point is, and he's kind of keeping watch to make sure nobody kills us in our sleep or whatever. We're just squatting in a random house. So we're allowed to do that, or we can sleep with some kind of NPC house if we find one, and we always have to find like a different one every time, which I broke that rule twice, but one was in like that RP episode where I stayed in the house the whole time, basically, except to go get him food. And then the other time was like I was having heat strokes. That was kind of a good RP moment. Like we come back from Silver Pine and the undead areas, which are all have the chill of death in the air, and then we come back here and we're not used to the temperature, so we like pass out right outside Orgrimmar, mainly because I was analogizing the heat strokes and the fact that I was streaming on Wi-Fi that day just happened to be, you know, my one and only time doing it, and so it kept crashing, so I was afraid to go anywhere. So all I did was like dick around in Orgrimmar, which I kind of went to last time without a good justification for it. Look how he's standing there like I'm telling him to go there, but I'm not. And then he just teleports. He's actually bugging out. And not even because he's hungry or anything. So we do have these bombs in reserve. I did like 100% clear Duratar by this point now. We did Skull Rock. We did even this little one that I forgot, kind of the loose ends. I think that was last time, right? We still finished part of Duratar. And then we did that very cool quest here where you have to go up the mountain, Dread Mist Peak, and you get this badass like stone with all the burning blade, and it gets all foggy, and like there's a red aura around the screen. That was a really cool area that either I haven't seen before, or at least I don't remember especially well. I certainly don't know the Horde zones that well. But yeah, my point was, if the Barrens is an open world RPG single player game, it would be pretty satisfactory. Like that's almost as big as Oblivion, or like, and it's got so much variety. You got the Oasis, the Wailing Caverns, you got RFK, the Quillbore, you got the Silithid there, you got human stuff like Tiragard Keep, you got Ratchet and the Goblins. Like you got so much stuff going on with it that a single zone in an MMO, if done correctly, can feel like an entire game. That's what I like about the genre. No matter how good, like speaking of the Elder Scrolls series, no matter how good it can be, it's still only so big. Like Skyrim is amazingly big, and in fact, the most impressive thing about it to me isn't even the size of it. Like the map size isn't that big of a deal, right? If you compare it here, it's like maybe these zones combined or something like that, like 5 or 6 zones. But the difference is, or the good thing is, that we do have a two-handed weapon, like my first one that I've been using. This one's technically better, but I can't decide really which one I want. You want the top-end damage. But no, it's the fact that Skyrim has that Radiant quest system that makes it feel worthwhile to... It makes it feel very worthwhile to do the same stuff over and over. So you'll be in 1,000 hours in, like me, and then I'll go to the College of Winterhold, and they'll say, go get me a book. And then they'll send me to some level-appropriate... Like it'll spawn in stuff that's still challenging for me. Even at that point, it'll scale stuff to you, and then it'll send me to some random place in the world that I haven't been in a while. So it makes all the content feel relevant, and there's enough of it where it doesn't really feel like it repeats, even though you are going to the same places again. So I think I only did the one quest here, I guess, to earn our keep, sort of that we deserve to be in the Barrens. So now this time I can rest like outside the crossroads. I was intending to do that like 3 episodes ago. Like it took a whole episode just to do this outskirts part, but I want to do it very sort of systematically, but it's going to be hard to do. I'm doing it more, it's just so big, like I can't even handle it. This is the biggest zone in the game, right? Easily. I'm trying to think if there's one that just feels like, you know, like Dun Moreau looks pretty damn big on there, but yeah, there's no... Yeah, imagine me not even knowing that much. But yeah, the reason why it's a little bit less impressive, I guess, is just because... Imagine if wing clip didn't work on stuff without wings. If you were to take it literally, that could be a good RP. Oh, why is he taking aggro, though? Oh, because I'm using this and my weapon skill's not that high? But no, I think it is. I can't wait till I get counterattack, but it won't be till like level 30. I'm not allowed to carry over mongoose bite. There'll be so many people complaining in the series as I upload it to YouTube, like, oh, this guy's so bad, he doesn't know this or that. But so many of it is just decisions that I'm making, right? Like, I'm not allowed to do certain things just because that's my style. I have certain rules, and I have too many of them to really keep track of. Maybe it sounds like a good excuse, but I mean, this would be great for dual wielding purposes, but I don't really see the point in using it until level 20, right? But it's a one-hander that's basically better than my two-hander. So I have to use the Hunter's Mark to get the pet to attack. And of course I want to... Maybe I won't even try to do too many quests. Like, I'll try to just explore certain areas around the outskirts. So like we enter, we can check top and bottom. Oh yeah, I wanted to check out Ratchet and see all the quests they give me there. I have to be careful not to pick up ones that I don't want to do, though, because I don't want to abandon any. I don't think I have either. I think I failed a couple, not like outright, where I had to retake them, but like your inventory is full, so you fail. Whenever something dodges me, I feel like, oh, I got to do mongoose bite, because I'm used to, you know, I played a warrior, obviously, way more than a hunter, which is basically not at all. Is that, you know, you expect it when you mitigate, not when... Okay, so for this, the problem is you're not allowed to use the pet this way, so you have to actually manually pull it. We had that awesome moment in Skull Rock. That is one of my favorite moments of the series so far, where that guy, Gazuz or whatever his name is, like some level 14 or 16 orc in there. He's in like some weird perch spot. Like there's that thing at the top, like with the chest and stuff, but he's like on the bottom thing. So I go up there, I loot the chest, or I see the chest at least, and I'm like, oh, there's no enemy here. Normally there's one, and there was nobody in there like killing stuff. So I knew it wasn't like, oh, he's waiting to respawn. So I felt safe, and so it's like the hunter becomes the hunted. He set a trap on me. So that's kind of a good ideology that it was right when we got our first trap too. So there's sort of like this inverse. As much of a novice hunter as we are, we got sprung in his trap, because then I'm walking down along the bottom and I don't expect anything to be there, but he's kind of hiding in that spot. So he aggroes along with another enemy and almost kills me, or at least gets a good jump on me. And then we sort of reset and set our trap on him, but that's kind of a good learning moment, growing pains moment for a hunter. We think we got the trap, but that was like an expert lesson in somebody who isn't even a hunter, but that doesn't mean that the concept of a trap is beyond them. It could have almost been a mechanic associated with the rogues instead. Like it obviously makes sense for hunters, but you don't have to torture the poor giraffes. But just the sheer number of choices you would have as far as pets to tame in this regard is very cool. Yeah, what if they keep dodging mongoose bite? It'll create an infinite chain. You should get at least a few of those per enemy. I don't know why that's even white. Like, it must be a crafting material for something, but it doesn't... Oh, it's probably for, like, leather working, which is almost what we should have been, but... See, we have to at least spend some mana to do this every time, which isn't that much, but it's a certain commitment that we have to do, which only seems fair that we should have to do it, because it gives purpose to the ability, and it kind of makes the idea of the pet attacking a little bit more relevant. You're not marking it for your sake or to increase your damage abilities. You're marking it for the sake of the pet telling it what to attack. Which, again, something like that is a minor rule because I didn't even follow it at the beginning. I had Hunter's Mark like the whole way. I don't even know why I got it. I even said that when I first got it. Like, I'm not going to use it, obviously, because I'm not using range, but there's going to be some RP way to show it. Or like I said, if I fight like a certain rare spawn or something, I'll do that just to make it seem like a more memorable encounter. Like I have... It's kind of like announcing your presence, though, because when you're even in PvP, if somebody marks you, you know they marked you, so now you're on edge. You're not really catching them by surprise. We go to Orgrimmar again. One of the annoying things about this has been the bag space. Yeah, this is kind of a scary moment that I remember from my original hunter, that I kind of just kept going, like, oh, what's over there? And it was like some level 25 spider. But we're almost at the point where we could deal with that, but it must have been a lot lower. It is just kind of a surprise, but it is a clear separation of biome moment. Like, what sense does it make for Ashenvale to border on the Barrens? It's not even like one of those like Desolates where, oh, the land was corrupted by this or that. I forget what even the story is, but it just happens to be there. The Barrens are like a desert that borders on a forest, a lush forest. That's one of the weirdest clear separation biomes in the game. See, like even Deadwind Pass makes a little bit of sense because Duskwood sort of foreshadows it, and like these two being next to each other makes sense. Even though the clear separation biomes is a bit too clear, like what, there's a little bit of water and the ground goes from like orange to just like tan. Why would that be? Yeah, I'm not even like looking to do any particular quest. We're sort of just, well, what quest do I even have? I've really held off and cucked this guy who told me to go to the crossroads. He told me to do that at level 8, and now we're level 18, and I still haven't done it. As soon as I got there, I'm like just sticking it to him. Like I wasn't over leveled. That's like the NPCs act as like chat would do, where they'd accuse me, oh, you're just over leveling, you're making it too easy. But every time I go to a new town, like as soon as I go to the crossroads, since I'm level 18, which isn't even that high, but they'll tell me, oh, you should go to Ashenvale. They keep trying to push me there. Not once I'm done with all the quests and I've leveled there for a while, but as soon as I get there, just to tell me I'm sort of milking it. Boulder Load Mine. Now, one of these things is going to have elites or some random thing that's going to catch me off guard, but I haven't changed my tracking in a super long time. And the problem with doing this is, you know, you should wait till a quest takes you there, but it's so hard for me to even justify getting to the crossroads because there's so much stuff to look at. So maybe I will clear it through here anyway. I kind of don't want to do it like this, but it could be dangerous too because these are almost peaked out in terms of level. Always the rule of 2. Fight stuff 2 below you, never 2 at a time, and never 2 above you. But these are right at my level, but even then, you know, hunters in a way almost make grinding sort of fun because they sort of justify it by like, oh, your pet has to get food, so you're doing it for that reason, or some other. I guess that's the main reason. Just my explorative nature makes it feel more rewarding too. But yeah, like that one episode, oh, I'm just sitting there RPing in the house the whole day in Silverpine Forest at like the Ivar patch, but even then I have to go outside to get food because, you know, my pet's hungry and I'm not gonna let him starve, and I'm not like really allowed to dismiss him either. I don't see why I would. You don't want him to despawn or anything either. We had that little scare with the raptors, and we had that confusing moment last time. Oh, so you can do that without a weapon though. You can just do that with your bare fist. I didn't even know that. Where they cry for help, and it's like, sure, I expect them to do that, but then I aggro like 3 together. So that was my clip title. I haven't been this scared of raptors since the original Jurassic Park. One of those templates I love to use, like, I haven't been this excited for such and such since such and such. It's hard to explain, but whenever somebody shares a name or something obscure, always make some sort of weird reference. So there's nothing really special there. You would almost think that'd be a named NPC or something. Yeah, nice job looking out too. That guy's no hunter. He sees me coming. That's his point, to alert everybody. But that's one of the immersion breaking elements of MMOs, as much as I like them, is it makes sense in a certain from a certain point of view. The idea that, okay, these enemies won't come after you because you're in a group, or it's an, you know, there's other players always dicking around, so they can't afford to leave their post to all come after one player because there's so many players around. Like, there's always an ongoing assault on the location. But in a situation like this where you're alone, whether you're in a group or not, I just mean like the, you know, other adventurers are going around, it doesn't make sense that they wouldn't see you or come after you, but you just kind of have to deal with that. It almost makes more sense sometimes with animals. The idea that, okay, we can kind of split here, use my racial. Now, why would he go to attack the pet there? What did he even do? Maybe just the act of him doing that buff generates a certain amount of aggro. Okay, this guy's doing very good amounts of damage to me. In fact, we met our match in just 2 random goblins. What the fuck? Usually the pet is pretty fast, so... Pretty clutch parry. We gotta have one of these moments per... See, if they have some ability like a net or whatever, that's what really gets you. Or like some kind of range, just like any unexpected weird thing. Now, see, we cleared our path all around here, so at least we know we're safe in this regard. Look at all these close calls. I'm totally doing them on purpose, but see, that's all we get for fighting stuff our own level, because you can't forget the fact that not only are we not using like twinked out stuff or enchants or any kind of good stuff, it's all just from vendors or random drops, and you know that's important to this whole experience. But also, you're not even using your core class abilities, so that's the whole fun of it. It's permaneth mixed with a hard mode, which I maybe did some of that in my other runs, but mostly you were allowed to use, like, you still couldn't use anything from other players, but you were allowed to at least use your core class abilities. So that was weird. Like, normally each of us would be able to solo one of those. I'm not even sure. And the problem is sometimes it takes me so long to kill stuff that, let's do it again. Sometimes it takes me so long to kill stuff that by the time you do it, they'll end up respawning anyway. Like, you can't really make progress. But by the time we take care of these two, I don't know if you can really do this without pulling both of them. Or sometimes they're tied together in such a way that, for example, they're tied to a chest. So you go to open the chest in that mod area in Touristfall Glades, and like 50 Murlocs come after you, not because they would have aggroed normally, but just because they're guarding the chest, basically, which is kind of a good mechanic. I don't really want him to tank, but somehow he is. It's about as good top-end damage as I can do. The other weapon's a little bit faster, though. You never want to put yourself in a spot like that, because then you might have to run through this guy if something goes wrong. You always want to have the back clear. Right, so that Thunder Lizard moment was a big scare in the little, whatever it's called, Thunder Ridge and Duratar, where we have all those lizards behind us that we like snuck past, or they respawn behind us. Oh, that may be like our first wool cloth ever. Probably not, but definitely maybe the first we looted, some we found in a chest. But I would have kept it too. Like everything, I'm a loot hoarder in the sense that I'll put it in my bank and say, oh, we'll use it later. So I'm having trouble keeping aggro, which is maybe only fair, and it'll only get worse as time goes on, because the pet's going to keep getting stronger. And what you have to realize is, never mind that pets have taunt abilities, which of course I won't teach him that, because he's not meant to do that anyway. But it's just the fact that the pet is meant to hold aggro even without a taunt, theoretically, from your ranged abilities and your range auto attack, auto shoot, let alone from your melee. So it doesn't really make sense that you would be able to tank. And you could turn off his buff, but that doesn't really matter. The thing I would have to probably turn off is his bite. I don't want to forget that he's going to... Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird, like, tank iteration on design. Like, it's rewarding you for mitigating, so it almost makes you want to do it, but people always meme on Survival Hunter so hard. So here we have a situation where we need some food for him. Like, can he eat the guy's paw? I don't know if that would count as food. This would have gone bad. Maybe we ought to stop. See, this is what I mean, though. Unless I get some meat here, or like I didn't get any from all those animals I took care of. Yeah, that's what I meant by like farming too. It gives you an incentive to kill a certain kind of thing, which every class maybe has their own. Like a mage would want to kill birds and buzzards to get the light feathers without having to buy them. So every class might have an incentive to kill stuff even when they're not doing a quest, just to keep up their class resources and abilities. So this is the best example where you have to do it for your pet. He's kept up with my level incredibly well. I don't really worry about pet training out in the field. We can do it at some point when we go to... I kind of want to clear out this area, but he's going to get hungry on me, and I don't want him to get mad. You never want to keep him below content. Even at content, I don't like. I'd be willing to go and buy some food, but now I'm kind of too deep into this commitment. You know, we're already starting to get respawns. Oh, here we go. She saved my life, dude. Because that'll at least last a certain amount of time. I'm still used to the F2 keybind. These goblins are so small that they kind of blend in with the grass. It's a good, almost hunter-esque technique. Is that a dwarf? Venture Co does give you a good excuse to see all these different races like that everybody hates. It doesn't matter whether you're Alliance and you're killing humans. Right, we're all united in this sort of pseudo almost environmentalism, which hunters would take personal umbrage to, druids would care about a lot too. So, I mean, every once in a while, if they give me like a haunch of meat, that would be fine. Yeah, we're already kind of too deep into this area where we don't have necessarily a great escape from it either. Like, if something goes wrong, where are we really going to go? I'm afraid of these cliffs. You can do some kind of wall hacking at times, but you should always have an escape plan whenever you go into an area. Rule of being a hunter, number one. And not just like feign death, because even after doing that, you still have to, you might have to fight your way out. That'll save you from the immediate encounter. This might be just too many things in there. Or like we like to do some sort of checkpoint, like we get a chest, or we kill like a rare spawn, which that's one really good thing about, oh wow, I'm letting my health get way too low. That's one good thing about the whole experience of doing this on like dead servers and in the solo sense, is that I've seen more rare spawns here than I've probably seen in my whole life. Like probably almost every single one between Treacherous Fall and Duratar, the only two zones that we really did. I mean, a little bit of Silver Pine, and now we'll do a little bit of the Barrens, but it doesn't mean we have to finish off the Barrens, because got to make sure we don't aggro two things together. And there's a lot of stuff behind us that's going to creep up on us. It's a very large area, and I almost shouldn't dick around with it, but I kind of want to just do an explorative session where, some of these episodes will be RP. Some of them will just seem like grinding. Because, yeah, none of this is serving any purpose. Or it'll be one of those great dynamic quests, like where, you'll do some kind of, you'll pick up an item that begins a quest even as you go clear someplace out. What if two things aggro like they did before, which is very likely to happen in a building type setting like this. You would have to run all the way out like we did, but I can't because, there'll be so many things on the way, and that'll be the difference. And I'm going into each of these fights with very low health, so as much as I don't want the pet to tank, there's almost a good incentive to it. We do have a better version of a potion, too. Just one of them, though. This is where our tracking comes in handy, but this doesn't really seem like a good idea why I'm doing this now. I, first of all, don't even need to do it. Try to get him from the back door. All these little angles and planning strategies you have to go in with as a hunter. That'll be good because the other guys shouldn't aggro now because they're totally on opposite sides. I haven't been using my... I am very squishy, all things considered. I haven't been using my trap very much, so... Yeah, we don't get to use Serpent Sting, but we get to use that, so that's only fitting. I almost forgot about traps altogether. And not just, like, right there, but I mean... That would be such a core element. Like, we could freeze one thing and kill the other. Gotta watch out for a pat. Hopefully the food crate involves meat for my buddy here. Oh, shit. Okay, why don't we have him back off a little bit? Let's see how even when we make him attack again, we still have to burn some mana for that. So this is a little bit dangerous. I'm low on mana. I'm low on health constantly. I keep going into fights with like half health, so that just shows you this area is like too much for us to handle with a level 5 green weapon. It's basically the best that we have. Unless we get another good one-hander. Some of these might start to be better than mine, but not really. Today should almost just be the Ratchet episode to sort of fight our way to there and sort of skim the coast still. These are meant to be like very bite-sized. Fuck, he doesn't eat bread. I don't know whether he eats fish or not. Like some people consider that meat, some don't. It almost feels like he should. So that'll be obviously for some quests. So like we're scoping it out, so it'll make it easier later if we want to do a quest. But I don't know how much of this I did like in the Duratar. I feel like I would tend to avoid it until a quest sent me there, and usually they're pretty good about sending you basically everywhere in a zone for a quest eventually. There's some kind of ogre maybe hiding out back here, or there's just another goblin. These will aggro pretty flippantly because my level is pretty consistent with them. Like I've been benefiting from being higher level, not in just the raw sense of like stuff is easier to kill because of it, but also in the aggro range sense. I don't have to worry as much about stuff just latching onto me from a million miles away, or even my pet, who again, thankfully has kept up very well. He's living off a diet of haunches of meat from these guys. which if I don't get, I could be in some trouble. I have to manage my inventory a bit because I'm not allowed to destroy stuff. This has gone bad, so I shouldn't be allowed to use it. If we find a fire, I'll just dump it in there. I knew he was there. Imagine getting ambushed by an ogre, almost like that moment that we were talking about with Gazoos, where he springs the ultimate trap of all, worthy of a veteran legendary hunter. These goblins are very sneaky, though, and a very good race for a rogue class, like gnomes. That alone would be, you're sort of racially profiling, but in a good way. Like, you would make a good rogue because you're so small, I can barely see you anyway, even when you're not in stealth. Whereas over time, they've let like every class be everything, or every race be everything, where some of them don't make sense. Like, oh my goodness, if Taurens could become rogues, like every class should be able to become everything, but... Or yeah, like even Worgen are so... big, but I guess they have sort of their animalistic instincts to sneak around. 13. I like how whatever the item is called, 4 strength, 4 stamp leather belt, nobody even knows the name of it, or it's just something very generic, but everybody basically just calls it that. It becomes ubiquitous with it. The wing clip is very important here because you have to... And yeah, I liked in that raptor moment, we got like a mitigation chain too, where... I'm technically not allowed to craft out. Man, this is a weird decision. So the only difficult thing was where we aggro 2 things at once, which very well could happen here too. Or we might run into an elite or something, but you can kind of tell based on that. We still haven't given our pet a name, which you might think is very antithetical to RP, but there's actually a good RP explanation for it. The fact that we don't want to get too attached, a fear of losing it. So as much as we do care for it, we've still kind of held off on calling it anything, and I almost had a surprise name to give it that would hold a special meaning too. Although I haven't been as good at coming up with RP names lately. I went into this sort of unprepared and without even a sense of purpose. But just for the sake of it, I should be able to do it. It's just... The problem is every one of these is going to take like 2-3 minutes between the fight. Okay, so he'll attack the pet anyway, which here it's perfectly acceptable to do that. And you should almost save the wing clip for later on. Or he's not even going to be hitting it, but in those cases it's acceptable if they, if it's 2v2, then it's fair to use the pad, but the tank, yeah, he's doing almost too good of a job holding aggro, which I don't like. But like a true hunter would rather put themselves at risk than to ever put their pet at risk of dying. Even if in the context of the playthrough, it wouldn't be over if the pet dies, in fact, by a certain... Oh, shit. Is that going to be padding? He's padding. He's padding. Now, you only have Bud so far to go as you're doing this. Now, he's not going to be like a special one, is he? I think he's the one who came all the way outside, but maybe not. Yeah, having to spam Hunter's Mark like this is a little bit stupid. Maybe once it's applied once, that should count. Or the whole point is you should almost not be able to cancel it. We went way... Oh, my God. Overboard with this, but why did they just stop there? Is that just the range of my tracking? The biggest thing that scares me is if 2 things try to get me at once, which as a hunter above all things should be no excuse for that, right? You should never have them get the jump on you. One of them is going to be moving around and padding, but maybe he only goes but so far, and that's the cool thing. Even when you disarm me, I can still beat you with my mongoose bite with my fist, apparently. I might have to use mana potion, health potion just to keep the pace going, or they could potentially drop something. But because I'm going to be stingy with respect to using potions or whatever, it'll end up really getting me in trouble. Because I am going to be tanking. So, I mean, you should have more food. You should have more bandages. I just went into this woefully unprepared. And you should pull them back a little bit, but yeah, even when your pet gets a dodge, you should get a benefit of mongoose bite or whatever. We have to pull aggro, or we can just disengage the pet. Oh god. Okay, have him take care of that. I'll finish this guy off, where he is basically taking both. And look at even how much he's taking. Oh, he actually escaped that though. Are you kidding me? All right, now we're going to need that haunch of meat thing again. Like, the pet can almost solo stuffing and almost just do better than I can, but sometimes that's true anyway because they have so much health and so much armor as time goes on. Actually, his doesn't seem that impressive, all things considered. You are allowed to use this as much as you want, which is almost what I thought I would be doing half the time. Like, I would be a sort of melee-focused hunter, but as long as it doesn't aggro both, it did. So we're going after the stronger one for some reason. I don't even know why I'm doing this. Maybe because he's a little bit low on health. Or then I'll end up generating more aggro from, I'll end up generating more aggro from just, gonna be a bomb abuser here. I almost can't even get it off. How is he not taking care of that? Okay, finish this guy off. Even giving me a potion. I just didn't even pay attention to that. Like, I'm really pushing it here. Like, what is the point in me doing this right now? Okay, at least we know. Okay, we've explored. We know it's here. I'm not gonna push my luck because I don't even have the adequate resources to get through it normally. I would have to just... Maybe we can sneak around the back and go a little bit different way, because most of the stuff is gonna have respawned by now, so I can't just run out of here. Feign death would be good for that. Like, you run through some, aggro some, but I wouldn't even want to mess around with that. Or there's like this whole feign death trap meta that people would do just to get out of combat, so they could do, like in the middle of a duel, they could do a trap unexpectedly. They haven't respawned up to this far, or they kind of have, but I always make a point of trying to clear through, even if it seems like I could skip something. I just never want stuff behind me, or I never like stuff to just respawn in the spur of the moment, in the sense that, you know, it's especially annoying if other people do it. Other people will kill stuff and just... You won't know that there's going to be a respawn, and that'll catch you off guard. I mean, some unlucky crit or something could really get me here. I'm trying to sort of sneak by, but I don't feel comfortable with it. There's that one spot where there's two very close together, which is almost impossible to avoid aggroing both. And this is the biggest problem. I need to get food, not just for the pet, but even for me, because, yeah, I'll eat this rotten, spoiled meat. That should have some negative effect. I need bandages, which were pretty handy for. I was using those quite a bit just now. We need some meat. We need a lot of things, so seems like a good excuse to go to Ratchet. Missed those human sounds, but I almost played humans too much, even if I, you know, I don't like my health getting this low like every fight. You know, even when I would play Alliance, I would play like almost only humans and exclusively humans. You don't really want to try to go down this way, although it almost seems like you could. So let's just wait. The pet's gotten very low multiple times. In fact, I almost thought he was a goner in that first one where he was tanking like both of those. You always wanted to tank at least, like, at most one thing. But even then, he probably wouldn't have even aggroed, but it's not like I can even blame my pet for that. 'Cause that's kind of a good principle, too. You might think, oh, I'm just doing that for RP purposes. Like, oh, you don't want the pet to tank, and you don't want to make it too easy, and you have to kind of give him the command after you've already taken aggro of it and stuff. But the real reason, or one way that it could be spun as a beneficial thing, is you never want to send the pet in and have it aggro like 50 things accidentally, like in the middle of the thing. So here you're pulling them yourself and then letting the pet attack only once you are sure that everything is safe. So this seems actually pretty safe to do. I do have the ability to use a potion, so I'm fine with it. You just, those should be the rules. Every fight you should go in with the ratio and the potion up, but then it'll start to take too long. Or even just like go in with full health. Like, I'm breaking all my rules. And this is very, very close to a spot where we almost died there in the water. So that was maybe my issue with leashing. That I guess I kind of forgot how leashing worked, period, but it especially confused me because of the water, only because of the simple fact that that's kind of a cool way to dodge them. Just in principle, I almost want to kill them once more, though, this group of two, that you don't really have to fight together. The point is that, or maybe it was the two goblins. But yeah, when stuff respawns, it's like they're being reborn in another life. that they change race, right? Like it'll be there's normally 2 goblins here, but now it's a human and a goblin. But yeah, when I go through the water, it confuses me with respect to leashing because I don't expect them to chase you that far, but because you're going slower, it can happen like that. His back is turned, so that's the best case you have to avoid him. Just because he kind of embarrassed me a little bit earlier, I'll take care of these 2 clowns again. We looked in that building. There was a chest up there. Like it's good sort of reconnaissance just to do. Look at these crits though, man. And they're starting to have all these different kind of abilities and stuff too. This guy's just a madman. He's critting me. He's just doing all kinds of crazy shit. Did he crit me like 2 or 3 times? Like what happened? Crit, like just normal stuff. You can get a crit chain. You can get a mitigation chain. So many things can go wrong. So that's part of why I love permadeaths in general and everything. Is just like, it might not seem like a big deal. Like, oh, of course, most games are, and that's even my principle behind why I made that format. First playthrough permadeath. You go into a game for the first time that you've never played before, which is obviously nothing like this, but you go into a game that you've never played before for the first time. Like it could be something that just came out. Like when what's it called? You know, I almost want to go to Orgrimmar. Right? We're so close. It almost should be acceptable, but it's almost not. Get this guy some meat, or I'll kill more of these beasts. You go into a game that you've never played, like Tears of the Kingdom, right? You could have done that first playthrough permanent. That's totally how I would have done it if I was more so the type to play stuff right when it comes out. But the point is that there's that one unexpected interaction. There's that one thing that everybody who's played the game knows, but that you wouldn't know going in, so you play it completely blind. And so either what you'll have is a great triumph and success where you dealt with every unexpected contingency as you went on, or you'll have some big surprise moment where like, wow, despite my best efforts, there was this weird mechanic, like in Danganronpa, whatever that mechanic was, doesn't mean it's hard, I just didn't know what to do. Or like L.A. Noire, the chandelier, like it'll always be memorable because you're trying your hardest just to survive in a game that isn't necessarily that hard, that most games aren't made to be that hard. So that was my sort of postulation about the format. Most games are made to be mainstream and therefore easy enough to beat without dying. But people still die because they suck and they're not me, ha ha ha. But as a general principle, like Ocarina of Time is one of my favorite examples. I played it as a kid and I remember distinctly, I didn't die a single time until the very end. I died on Ganon once he reaches his final form, and that was partly like the same thing. Like I was so shocked that I was just so shocked and stunned that there was another phase after escaping from the castle, so I kind of was off my game a little bit, but that was the only time I died the entire playthrough. Because again, a lot of the time it's so easy. I'm sure I used fairies, but that kind of doesn't count because you're not really gaming over. That's always a confusing thing. Like in this game, should you count using the Ankh or the Soul Stone? Because that's like a class intrinsic ability, so it's almost only fair that you should be able to do that. Like, why should a hunter be able to feign death as many times as they want and cheat death, where, you know, they might have died in that situation, but because they have that ability, or a rogue can vanish, but then why can't a warlock Soul Stone? Why can't a shaman Ankh? So I almost say it that, and I've never done a hardcore run of either of those classes, so I don't know what I would do, but I wouldn't use those abilities, but just from a character identity standpoint, I would say you should be able to use it once. So your entire 1 to 60 Warlock playthrough, you should be able to use one Soul Stone, and only one, because it's just intrinsic to the class. Or same thing with the Ankh. That seems like a fun, see, like it's with the pet here. I could do this even with melee only, even hardcore, even, you know, no buying from other players and stuff without the pet. But, I mean, then we'd really have to abuse being overleveled and stuff. But it just wouldn't be fun, right? I wanted the class to have some identity, so you have to make some sort of trade-off. Either you can use range, but you can't have a pet, so you can only use it but so much, or you have a pet, but you can't use range, or you can do both, but you can't use abilities. Like, there's got to be some kind of in-between. That would almost be the fair way to justify using range. You can auto-shoot, but you can't use a single one of your range abilities, which by that point you might realize it's not even that good. I'm kind of going against what I said, too, that we don't want to go to Orgrimmar just on a whim for no reason, right? We should have to be doing something. So like we, you know, we've been to here like 3 or 4 times now. The first time was to show off our pet, but I guess because it's so close, I don't know. I should have made a better excuse to go to Ratchet or somewhere else. I don't know how I want to treat flight paths either. Yeah, let's get rid of this rotten meat. Or yeah, it should be like once per episode allowance, as if that's even a big sacrifice, considering they're not even that long. The main reason why I want to come here is just to get meat. And I almost was thinking I need food for myself, but maybe I don't. But you're only allowed to craft, let's say, in town is the general principle. I can make a whole bunch of bandages. And do I even have the ability to make wool stuff? I think I do. Or I think I should be able to learn it. I mean, I go for mutton chops just because this guy likes high quality stuff. I don't even mind the money thing, but then again, money does become a big issue. So I said when I feed him, I shouldn't be allowed to like move or something just to discourage doing it in combat. So let's actually wait for him to digest it and everything's good. And then let's see what his loyalty level is at. Best friend, level 6. Yeah, I'm kind of insanely impressed that he kept up with my level, because I guess part of it is I was killing a lot of lower level stuff for a while, in the sense that 10 should definitely last the whole episode, so that's a small price to pay. So all I want to do now is just... Oh, wait, I can't move. I don't know why that's really a rule, but the point is you're not meant to do it really out in the wild too much, or out... Well, I mean, you have to do that, but it would prevent you from doing it in combat or like a very high pressurized situation. He hasn't been much of a glutton, honestly. Like, you go long stretches without having to feed him. It's kind of not as bad as I would think. So here we have a case where there's a lot of the stuff I want to sell. And some of this I almost want to keep just for engineering bombs and stuff. We just used a couple of those, actually. So cloth goods, and I think leather goods are here too, but yeah, cloth and leather. So he could possibly have a use for this just because he'll make some, you know, you got to explain it like Elder Scrolls style. Like, it makes sense that he would want to buy that for such and such reason, which most of the stuff I can't justify that with. In fact, most of this I want to keep anyway for whatever reason. So some of this I'd love to put in the bank, but I don't know if I'll be able to. The only other thing I want to sell is the canine, and that I tend to count as like general goods for whatever reason. Or arguably, you shouldn't even be allowed to sell the... You know what I wanted to do is first aid, but I don't even know where the first aid trainer is. I think it's somewhere in here, but you're certainly allowed to ask the guards, but I did spend that 5-hour episode in here. I would assume it's like somewhere up there, because this is all like the enchanting stuff. First aid. Arnok makes good bandages. Find him at the Survival of the Fittest hut on the shore of the lake in Spirit Lodge. Oh, I was wrong. In the Valley of Spirits. It's above and to the west of the Valley of Strength. I guess you should know that because that's where they also take the cloth donations. So it only makes sense. Kind of makes you second guess it. Would I rather make bandages for my next adventure, or would I rather donate them for rep or whatever? Which in this kind of run, it has no value at all. But by the time we hit 60, I'm sure I'll be exalted with somebody. In fact, Orgrimmar is so close to the Dark Spirit Trolls anyway. It crashed, so I don't know what got cut off. But yeah, like I was saying, that the fact that the first aid guy is in the Valley of Spirits almost makes you question it. Like, oh, would I rather get some useless rep, especially in a run like this where it doesn't serve any purpose? Although I might end up getting exalted, you know, by the end of it, at least with one of these. But yeah, would I rather make some bandages that might save my life in between fights because I'm too lazy to sit down and eat food or whatever the case may be, or I could stun them and use it tactically like Swifty style? Or would I rather just donate some cloth for rep? Kind of a bad business for the donation. You shouldn't put it right there. Put it next to the tailoring trainer too. Why don't you? And oh yeah, I was saying, like, I like how this is a good unlock condition for entering Undercity. So, like, I wasn't allowed to do that, and even once I hit it, I still didn't go in there. But that was also like, it was twofold. On one hand, it was the unlock condition, so I couldn't go in there otherwise. But on this other hand, I also wasn't able to, or no, it was sort of more just a justification, like, what's my goal in the Tourist Fall Silver Pine area? And so basically getting friendly to them was exactly corresponded to me being satisfied with the quest I was doing, and sort of that was a good checkpoint. So we can still come back to them later, obviously Hildebrand and stuff, But that was a good condition both ways. We became friendly with them, we unlocked the Undercity, and we complete basically what we were trying to do there. It just happened so perfectly that as soon as we hit friendly, we were done with what we wanted to do there. Silver Pine. I have like a very maybe hard to explain way of determining that, but you should almost have to go by the stepping stones. My chat is buggy, so hang on. This is the troll area, so you would think I should like it more, but... And yeah, what if I had a cat instead of a dog? They would hate the water. They would have to take this route, so I'm doing it for their benefit. But dogs love water, some of the time at least. That's kind of a generalization. I'm sure some kinds do, some kinds don't. You be watching yourself, respect our ways, or a curse be on you and yours. And by yours, I mean your pet. That is our only family now. Both our parents died. I haven't really expanded on lore as far as what happened to our dad. Our dad, actually, we didn't like because he accidentally killed our pet with a bow. That's why we vowed never to use bows or guns. Ranged weapons are evil, says the hunter, ironically. You be watching yourself, respect our ways. He says the same thing. Yeah, somewhere here is the first aid thing, which I don't think is in the same hut. There's that Illidan role player chick who has the little bondage scene going on where they all have blindfolds on. Very, very interesting. One of the classic confusing titles in gaming history. It's a demon hunter. Oh, you mean a demon that hunts? No, it's somebody who hunts demons. Oh no, it's a demon who also hunts demons, like Illidan. And then in Diablo, they kind of almost meme on that themselves. The idea that, yeah, survival of the fittest almost sounds like something to do with hunters, but...
Speak, friend.
It's always interesting to see who the trainers are. Like, I thought the engineering trainer wouldn't be an orc, because orcs are too stupid to, you know, work. They're always the peons and portrayed as a dumb race, but... Meanwhile, this guy's a master engineer in Razor Hill and in Orgrimmar and stuff, or even like a goblin is reasonable. I'm an orc of medicine. It does sort of show you that the goblins are more entrenched with the Horde, even this early on. So that's sort of good foreshadowing that they would join them over the Alliance, only because, you know, you see them more like in the capital city. You know, over here, Ratchet is a Horde zone, right? Like a Horde favored zone. There's nowhere in an Alliance favored zone like that, where you have just a random goblin outpost. So they were giving sort of preferential treatment to goblins. Like Gadget Zan is completely contested, neutral. Booty Bay is obviously contested, but the Barrens is very close to home in Durotar. If you have to come here to learn, I shall do my best to teach. Anti-venom and wool. You would think I would almost have done these before, but maybe I didn't have enough money, actually could have been the reason. Target is cured of poisons up to level 25. Which is almost going to be pointless now. Heals 161 over 7 seconds. Okay. It's like our first time getting wool, too, so it's very fitting. And this is kind of on our way out anyway, so it's kind of stupid. I totally forgot that this place even existed or that the first aid trainer would be there. I guess it makes sense. Somehow that's kind of like the mystical magical wing too. It could have been in like the Cleft of Shadow, or more so I thought it was up in one of these random houses in the Drag, like where there's the enchanting trainer. That would have made a certain amount of sense too. In fact, I think that's where tailoring, well, we just saw where the tailoring stuff is. Just because I spent that 5-hour episode doing this doesn't mean I know, oh, we got to do stuff in the bank and fuck. I don't like this because this is what happens. Then you spend so much time in town that it becomes a total waste. So I'll try to store what I can, but the reality is that there's too much stuff in there that I just don't know what to do with, or I don't want to part with. For a while, I was like holding on to a bunch of stuff that could have been theoretically useful, but now I kind of give up on it. So you can just sell all the weapons, all the weird stuff. I think I already did that though, and I still barely have room. So this I was saving almost for the bombs, or maybe other stuff in the future it'll be needed for. So we'll end up burning all our cloth and stuff on first aid when we really should be doing... what we should really be doing is saving it for some engineering gadget later on down the road, but I should have almost done a whole profession focused episode. But cooking we got to work on, but it's kind of hard to do that when you're feeding all your meat. But I guess you could cook it first and then still give him a nicer meal. I'm too lazy to even do that now. I'm just wasting money on it. 107 is pretty impressive. That could almost be an anti-farm condition. You're never allowed to fish in the same pool of water more than once, which is really harsh, actually. That might make it almost impossible to get it to max, but not really. There's at least 300. It's not like a huge body of water, like you can fish in anything, but just once each. And engineering, mining, nothing really to worry about there. I don't think it's changed in a while.
What are you looking for?
What am I looking for? My bank. So they have mana potions in there. You arguably don't need a lot of this stuff, like cold milk. This kind of stuff like I don't want to use, but I just don't have room. Like I have all this good stuff, but I can't do anything with it. Or like even this bag I don't want to part with. How ironic. What's taking up your bag space is going to be a bunch of sentimental bags that you get from quests or whatever that you don't even want to use. Level 5, 20 to 30. Those at least have their merits. Maybe I have too much linen, all things considered. Which means I'm more than comfortable making bandages from it. What is something I would feel comfortable getting rid of? There's really nothing. I guess I'll just deal with it. I should have almost made it in front of that guy. In fact, since we have to go out that way, I'll still do that. Yeah, we want to explore the coast, basically. We explored that whole goblin infestation area called... whatever, Boulder Load Mine. I love whenever like you're on the opposite side of a location and it'll still say the name. Like you might not be in Boulder Load Mine, you're just on the peak of this mountain doing something else weird, but it'll still consider it. Like you'll look in your friends list and see whatever they're doing, right, wherever they are, but it won't make any sense. Or like when they're flying or on a Zeppelin or something. The general goods, for whatever reason, he'll have a use for that. So now we get to go up again and then finally leave this place. See, that milk seems like, oh, it's good and valuable, but I almost don't want to use it because... Or, I mean, I almost don't want to keep it because it just takes up space. But then again, if I run out, I'll just sell it off. Yeah, this will be the perfect answer to what I was just dealing with, is the fact that if you're fighting stuff that's at level appropriate to you, you're going to have a situation where... I'm almost cucking my pet's training capabilities because, you know, he's almost too strong, which is almost unfair. But this isn't meant to be like, oh, we're learning spells and stuff. But it almost feels stupid to be allowed to go to town this much. But no, the point is that, imagine you fall off the bridge right here and die to that. The point is that we were seeing that between every fight we needed to heal a lot, but that's just because we were fighting actually level appropriate enemies for once. Or like my pet will fall off somewhere. He came super close to dying, and that also happened in Silverpine against like the Dalaran mages. If you massage each element of the game right, it creates a very balanced experience. Like part of it's RP, part of it you're reading the quest text and the lore and talking to NPCs and exploring, and part of it is combat, and part of it is RPG stuff, and part of it is class related stuff. Like there's not one element that's dominating it too much, but that's why it sort of annoys me when people play it like one way and one way only. It's not that, oh, you're playing it wrong, you're telling them what to do. The irony is it's almost the opposite. There's so many ways to play it that it's doing it an injustice if you play it, you know, one way and one way only and do it in sort of a stubborn way. And what ends up happening is basically people then are held to hold that against the game. Like, I'll have both bandages and just spam them, right? It has no special value to me. And obviously at this point, linen is completely out the window. Like we have 40, 80, 100, whatever in the bank. So if we need more than that for engineering, it's fine. Like we're not really allowed to farm, but I'm sure I'll come across stuff. Or, you know, but we don't farm, but we just quote unquote explore. We don't level up, but we just explore every nook and cranny of the map. So it ends up coming to the same thing. Like we're fighting level 8s in Tristfall as a level 15 or whatever, 12, 13. So we're not really even getting experience from them, but... yeah, this will be our first time having wool bandages. Which, how much better really are they than the heavy linen? 161 to 114, not that great, but... you know, I'm fixated on the idea of doing it in combat, too, whether you let your pet tank for you or all sorts of other things. We can bandage ourselves, or we can always mend pet. Very weird thing, but it ends up being beneficial to, you know, that'll be the way that we pull aggro, basically. You can have both of those there, even I don't mind. And like even in the same sense, I guess we could have both potions there, although it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. We have the weaker one first, just see, I don't want to accidentally do one, but I guess I don't use that part of the thing too much. That's why I deliberately put them out of the way. Yeah, this was sort of the whole selling point when you would see, wow, like, and even this is light compared to that. You had to see like 6 different taskbars and all abilities down the line. That was the level of depth, unless you play a paladin, of course. They're just fucking morons, but you would see all these abilities and say, wow, you could never have that kind of game on console because you don't have enough buttons for it. So that's the factually, objectively pro-elitist PC gamer master race criteria, that it's objectively not even better, it's objectively allowing you to do something that you couldn't do any other way. What can you do on console that you can't do on PC? Maybe you can play like a racing game like with the controller, but you can always use a controller on PC. You could say you could always use a keyboard on console, but I've never really tried doing that, or I don't know to what extent it really works. I know certain MMOs try to really advertise that compatibility, like Final Fantasy maybe says that, where it does allow you to. It's just like, I don't like when that influences design. Like GTA 5 is going to have auto aim, where it's like whack-a-mole. It turns it from a shooter to like a party game, where it's just, you know, you use the lock on because they know that aiming on console is shit. Whereas on PC, you wouldn't have to worry about that. They don't give you auto aim most of the time in third or first person shooters. So that's even them admitting it right there. Or like what other, like NBA 2K, people would say, oh, that's better on console, but that part of that is just the ports are so bad to PC. And second of all, if it's just the controller issue, you can always do that. You can always just use a controller on PC, which maybe people won't like that argument. They'll say like, oh, well, you could use a keyboard on a console, but yeah, like Elder Scrolls is exactly a good example of that. Elder Scrolls Online is going to mimic the Elder Scrolls series period, like where, oh, you have your 2 hands and that's all you do, and you just, you know, control the 2 buttons, like, oh, the 2 triggers on your Xbox controller or whatever, instead of like 50 different abilities at one time. Now, in some ways, I kind of like that system, the idea that we're kind of cheating having to hunt for our own food, even though that's our whole storied principle, but I'm almost too lazy to do it. So what is there besides this? Like, let's look behind here. So the idea with console is just to say that it basically sucks, but no, more to the point, it's the fact that these hyenas kind of scare me a little bit. I always feel like they're gonna come in a group. It's kind of what they're known for. There's that epic National Geographic video or whatever of like 5 hyenas almost about to kill a lion or something, and then its mate or one of its buddies comes to save it. And so, oh no, 6 hyenas can't take on 2 tigers. They can take on one of them, or lions. We are able to take the mines here because I haven't really done that, or maybe I did it with like one of them, but I have sort of the rule that there's, you know, mines don't go back, so you shouldn't be able to get more than one of the same exact node before in the same general vicinity. At least if you're doing it the first time through an area, you know that they're all fine, unless you hang around for so long that they do actually respawn. So an unrealistic 0 out of 10. Mines grow back. Look at that. Look at that. The same trap moment again. The trapper becomes the trapped, even though I'm hardly using my traps. Yeah, it almost feels dishonorable to use a pet when it's just a 1v1 match. See how much comfort it gives you? Like, he's only level 15, but a level 16 and 17 was making such a big difference. That yellow is the dead zone. You don't want to be in that at all whenever an enemy is yellow to you. So yeah, as we see one there. I don't know what this area actually is. This is part of the whole, oh, this is like the slug fens or whatever. Which this area can get a little bit messy, not just because of that, but it's because of the sludge and stuff, but because there's just so many things together, and whenever there's like verticality to it, something will aggro from above. Like, that's that classic moment in 3 hours, 29 minutes. How did he not aggro? He was just kind of looking at me, but he's so close. You know, stuff will aggro from above. That when you're on the ship in Dead Mines, and some parrot will aggro from the top and pull like 50 different things. It seems weird that people sort of, I guess we ruffled his feathers there. people seem to be doing dungeons and stuff in hardcore just from what I see in like titles and stuff of people who have done hardcore. It just seems kind of weird and out of place because I don't understand. Like, you could do them, but then it's like, oh, we're getting run through dungeons by level 60, and that's supposed to count towards something. Like, why does that goes against the whole spirit of what hardcore should be about, I guess. I almost don't even want to mess with this, but I kind of just want to look at it a little bit. I know there's some rogue quest that has you go there, not unlike the one that has you go to the tower in, I wonder if that's exactly for the same purpose, too. Exactly parallel quest that send you to a 10 to 20 level zone where you go kill some elite in the tower. So that's like for some, to unlock poisons, I think, as a rogue. Yeah, see, they make Taurens look bad. That, oh, they're too big to be able to be a rogue. This actually makes me a little bit nervous too. Just, oh shit. Now we don't even have beast tracking on, which in a place like the Barrens you probably should have it on. I mean, as much as I praise the, I love this, just random. It's not even a rare spawn. The fact that, yeah, that's just a sign. Like, you don't want to go over there, dude. Not because I'm scared of the gnomes and stuff, but we respect it. Yeah, let's try to tame that guy. I forget how that works in terms of being allowed to tame. This is like his underling coming to mark his territory. But yeah, we've seen so many elite, rare spawns, but even elites will have all to ourselves, like Sons of Aragorn and stuff. Okay, that's kind of bad angling. I thought I'd be hitting him the whole time there. Yeah, if you're not paying attention, one of those things can catch you by surprise. Sons of Aragorn. This guy's more of a named NPC, so there's presumably only one, but there'll be all kinds of other stuff. We even killed an elite, but he was only like level 11 in Skull Rock. Just randomly, you're just walking through there, and so that would have been way more scary if it was we were more level appropriate. So that's the cushion it gives you. This guy is level 19, which evidently is hard enough to deal with alone, even with our pet's help. So here we would basically want to do this. Just, again, this makes more sense because it's something that I sort of spam. 4% chance to immobilize. This is also like 4 or 5% chance to immobilize, but in a typical combat encounter, you're only going to use a trap once, unless you're kind of feign death cheesing even in PvE, but then that'll just reset them. But this, you can use as many times as you want, so it's objectively better because this is spammable. Not that you really should spam that, but I swear it started off at 4%, but it must just be 5 each time. Yeah, this will give you a 20% chance per hit. And that would be degenerate, spam-worthy stuff. But it just makes sense that if, you know, it's like if you set the trap just right, if you hit the action command as you're trying to set it, you would rightfully be able to ensnare your prey. So we'll have like 1 in 4 traps will do that, but then again, we're not going to get it all the way. So now we're able to get a level 20 deterrence, which is obviously going to be necessary. So I really can't wait till we have that, because then every fight we'll get at least 1 counterattack and 1 mongoose bite. So that'll actually make it kind of fun, even though they're both reactive. Those are the only abilities we're going to have. Way more melee interactability than a goddamn paladin, though. It's just such a clown class. Like, nobody can defend it. I'm having a better melee experience as a hunter, just that alone. Never mind the pet, never mind the range, all these other things. But of course, people say, did you know paladins can heal? Haha. Like, obviously that's what they're meant to do, and that's what they're relegated to do. Even that gets too limited. But, or like people will say, well, every class ends up doing like a rotation of 1 to 2 moves, like either in raiding or whatever. But at least you have the option. A paladin is judge, seal, that's it. Or holy light, flash of light mainly. Holy shock is at least something interesting. But you know, like, oh, a mage will just spam frostball the whole time. Yes, but at least you have other abilities to think about. Maybe you use fireball. Maybe you use arcane missiles. Maybe you use some of your CC or just something. At least you have options to think about. There's nothing to think about as a paladin, and maybe that's just the way people who play them like it. It's just so dumb. I'll have to do one. Yeah, and we'll be able to use bubble and lay on hands because there shouldn't be a restriction against them. Like, it makes it too much of a joke, but you know, they have a cooldown for a reason. So every 15 minutes, every hour, you should be able to do whatever you want. That's according to Blizzard, not me. See, because that one's not even cheating death. That's just like anybody else's cooldown. Is it really that much better than feign death that I could just get out of a situation? I don't even know how good feign death is. Like, sometimes it'll fail, right? They'll resist it, and then you could be screwed. We talked to the people here. We did this little cool demon quest for this guy. We had 2 very cool encounters last time in the Barrens. One was going up to Dread Mist Peak, and the other was, I mean, I guess even the Raptors was a bit of a scare. What was the other thing? Of course, the music is classic, iconic. The chat was full of trolls, and I'm not just talking about the race. We should change our... Yeah, I basically don't even want to go deeper into it, even though I did that just to bunk in somebody's bed somewhere. But we haven't used the one in the Crossroads because I haven't even been to the Crossroads. Yeah, we looked at the Oasis a little bit, but it didn't even discover. What other quest did I do here? I did Dread Mist Peak, and I mistakenly went up to fight the Raptors when doing that. So that's like on this side. He told me pretty clearly in the quest text. Does he have something to say to me still in retrospect? This guy, Axeloth, level 22. This was one that we slept in as well. So we've already slept 3 times in the Barrens, but that's the whole beauty of all these random houses. Just the fact that you're able to still use them, but you want them to be a little bit spread out. So we slept first time in the guys in this one. Then we went back to Orgrimmar and we're having heat strokes and stuff. That was that episode. Then we went a little further and we slept with a guy who had a little kid. And so sort of the trade-off for this one was, okay, we agree to do work in the Barrens. That's why he let us sleep there. And then for this one, we played with his kid, so he appreciated the company, so that's why he let us stay there. And he liked our wolf. And then the third one was the one up here on the river that you can't even really get a good idea. Makes it seem like nothing could really go there, but that was just, I don't know, because I'm having trouble justifying that. We were squatting there because nobody lives there otherwise. Got a little eye patch. All these diseased yaks. That was one of the weirdest lines by Roger Ebert. He just randomly says in a review with Roper, they're arguing about some movie, and he's like, may a diseased yak make love to your sister's kneecaps. Like, where did that come from? That had nothing to do with anything ever happening on the show. I don't even know if Roper has a sister. Like, it was quite bizarre. Nobody really seems to like Roper. Everybody loved Siskel. Yeah, I'll go to Ratchet and see what kind of quests they have in store for me. As far as right now, I don't think I have any quests here, which is kind of good. That shows you I feel like there was a second one. Yeah, see, same thing here. I get to the Barrens. I don't even get to the Crossroads, and they're already telling me, oh, just go to the Stone Talon. Go somewhere else because you're too high level. So yeah, we literally have 0 quests. That's actually kind of a better way to do it because Ratchet is a hub in and of itself. The Crossroads is such a big deal. And there's so much to do there that this guy I was almost afraid might steal from me in my sleep. He was eyeing all my cool gear. You know, this lowly peon might try to grab it and run, but our pet was guarding out for us. So that's a good teamwork moment. Right? Because before when we slept, there were always those mysterious moments. Like we sleep in Brill and this guy extracts blood from us in our sleep to give us back a troll's blood potion for our labor. The ultimate scam whenever they get a foreigner outside. I guess it wouldn't work with Taurens, or yeah, they'll give them milk, ice cold milk when a Tauren sleeps in there. That's perfect. Or I guess for orcs you can't really give them their blood because they'll get all touchy about how they used to be demons and whatever. It was the blood of Manaroth that turned them that way and this and that. Yeah, they have the perfect excuse. Whenever a dirty tourist Tauren or troll comes to them, they try to get them in their sleep like that and make them do work for them for free, just giving their own milk or blood back to them to drink. Yeah, would that be considered cannibalism if a cow drinks its own milk? Like, how do you define some of these things? Yeah, he doesn't really require food too much. Is there even like higher level loyalty levels than this? It seems to be. Like, this is as good as you're gonna get. I don't mind the length of these episodes, but it sometimes feels like I'm not getting anything done. Like, how many episodes did Duratar take? Like 7 or 8 altogether? This will take probably 10 or something. Like, I'm certainly in no rush to do this. But I don't know. Like, would I do another character immediately after this? Like, I highly doubt it. I would probably just do another series altogether, which I don't even know what it would be. I don't know what I even guessed it might be. It could be like, yeah, let's just do it for EverQuest. Try to go 1 to 60 there. And if I do it with the same pace and everything, and you could even say, oh, it's padding, but I don't even agree with that, because like I would do it the same style no matter how much I did it. Like, let's say even if I did this every day for like 10 hours, it might end a lot sooner. Obviously, like, it won't take so many weeks, but when I'm doing it only once a week, but I would still do it at the same pace. So it would still be the same amount of actual hours spent on it. Right? I hate that idea. That even though I'm used to doing longer streams and really making it count that way, you know, streaming every day, all day, 6 to 8 hours, somehow I find a way, even full-time job and all this other stuff. I always like the idea of whether you play it, whether you're able to do it that much or only an hour, let's say an hour a week you do, instead of that, you still should play it the same way. You shouldn't rush. You shouldn't change your approach. It's kind of harder to get into it that way, though. And the reason why is because, yeah, I kind of like this. It's sort of just you know, we're exploring this part of the Barrens, like along the river that we were so traumatized by. Our troll has struggled to adapt to the way of water that we should be so familiar with, only because we grew up on Senjin Isles or whatever, Echo Isles. So, you know, where have we had the brushes with death in the water? We had one here, right, across the Barrens because of the Crocolisk. We had one in Fall because of Maud and stuff in the Murlocs. We probably have had another one too. I can't even remember. So it's been a bit of a weakness for me, even though it shouldn't be. They pull you into the trap. That's especially good if you're fighting two things at once, so it'll help you take it down. It doesn't work on both of them, obviously, but it almost should too, but that would make it kind of OP. Yeah, so we're fighting our way through. See, arguably you could say, oh, just skip these, but this is the way of a hunter. We gotta kill as many beasts as possible, because that's what hunters do, right? Or like even druids could really object to that. You're going around slaughtering every animal in Azeroth over the course of a playthrough, just like it's no big deal. And like some of them they'll explain as corrupted and stuff. Like, these aren't corrupted. They might be hostile, but you know, they're not really doing anything to you. Whereas always the hilarity of any sort of RPG world that's a big size is that there's like 10 times more. I always say that in Skyrim. There's like 10 or 50 times more enemies than there are actual NPCs. Even never mind respawns and things like that. I just mean in a raw sense, if you count how many enemies are there versus friendly NPCs, there's way more. So you would think more people would be more panicked and worried. It's not like, oh, there's just a couple enemies here and there. Like when an NPC gives you a quest, it's like they could just throw their hands up. Not like, oh, go to this cave adventure and take care of this enemy. No, just go anywhere in the world and you'll probably have some combat encounter to face that would be doing us a favor to take care of, because the world is basically overrun by monsters and it's just completely gone to shit. Which maybe makes more sense in Oblivion, because it's, you know, oh, the Oblivion gates are open and all hell breaks loose, but that only happens like at the end of the game, I think, and I haven't even ever gotten that far with it. But that is sort of like a Radiant dynamic quest element too, where like they'll keep spawning different things that are level appropriate and whatnot. I'm gonna end up letting my pet get killed because I won't realize that it's low on health, but it's not meant to tank anyway, so it should never be low on health. I'm actually running out of mana a lot today, and it could be because of the Hunter's Mark, but it only takes up, it actually doesn't even tell me what it takes up. Yeah, auto shoot, which we don't even get a proper icon for, and Hunter's Mark just for the meme of it, or just for the RP of it. I guess it's not really a meme. 15 mana is not too bad. Hunter going Now that is a classic. The spirit of the mage is always in me, having to drink after every fight, but yeah, Wind Clip actually costs a bit too much. That's of course to discourage that on fleek DPS that you would have with it, where it's just a completely spammable ability. Or if it said that one simple text that, oh, it deals weapon damage +5, then it would be absolutely busted, because It has no cooldown even. Even this doesn't say weapon damage. Increases melee damage. Counterattack the enemy for 25. Yeah, this is actually kind of disappointing because you might say, oh, rank 1 versus rank 3, but you don't get it that early anyway, so... how did we miss one? Yeah, this is a very fruitful zone for a hunter to go through because it's just so filled with ripe prey and challenging predators alike. You got to really immerse yourself in the class that you're playing, right? I want to make some sort of theme thing of it with every single class, but the problem is I don't have all the time in the world to do it, or this isn't like the only thing that I do. I think I feel very strongly about that now since coming back. The idea that I would never want to be associated with just one thing and one thing only, even though it's sort of become chess because it's just more time consuming, but I'll never say like that's my primary thing. I do it twice a week, whereas everything else I do once a week just because, not because it's a better game, not because I like it more, not because of anything. It's just because it's time consuming. You could literally become an esports pro. You could win an MVP. You could become the biggest streamer on the platform like XQC. You could do all these things, or you could become a sub 2,000 FIDE chess player in the same amount of time, or just barely 2,000 FIDE. Like, it's the most unrewarding nonsense that I've ever seen, which in some sense I kind of respect because it means that you must really have a passion for it, especially back in the old days, decades ago, where you made even less, or where you didn't have all this spur of like, oh my goodness, you could potentially make money on Twitch by being 2,000 FIDE because it's such a big deal, right? It's one of those things like with movies, right? You see all these big blockbusters that you know aren't necessarily the best movies out there just because people have such a low standard. So the average person isn't a filmmaker, or they're not a cinephile where they watch every movie in existence, or all the best ones and have really high standards, so they don't know any better. So Transformers will lead the box office. But it's the same thing here. The average person is a bad chess player, 1,000, 1,500, something like that. So they look at Anna Kramling or Alex Botez and they say, oh, wow, so good. It's so impressive. We're blown away. So it's the same thing. You're rewarding something that's subjectively not held to a high standard just because you're comparing it to yourself, rather than holding it to the standard of the medium itself, which should be much higher. So if you want to celebrate Magnus, fine. If you want to celebrate Benjamin Feingold GMs, fine. But it doesn't make sense to celebrate 2,000 FIDE players. It just doesn't have any value to it. Not because it's easy to get there, right? Or people would say that. So that's why I have to at least be 2,000 FIDE to be able to say that, but I really shouldn't have to be anything. Right? Because that's always people's comeback. Like, oh, I'm not an athlete, but I can say Dwight Howard was a clown in the NBA because he didn't work as hard. And, Kobe said that. So many people can clearly observe that. He's just kind of having fun and dicking around. You got to be a little bit careful around the water here. And the reason why is because there's all this kind of weird Makura stuff. There'll be an elite. Basically, this water in general has not been that kind to me. Imagine that's just a random elite. Where we cross over back into Duratar again. You could pass this off like, oh, it's sand. That's why. It's not a clear separation of biome. It's like you're going to the beach. That's actually the best analogy for it ever. A real world clear separation of biomes is when you go to the beach and it goes from, oh, it's the road or it's grass, all the way to, oh, it's sand. Like, but that's more man-made, right? This feels more contrived because it's just kind of like that. The orcs didn't do this to make the river, or maybe they did. Maybe they irrigated the whole thing, but I kind of doubt it. You got to look out for those schools of fish just to see what interesting things you might catch. We have already fished in here too. But yeah, what was that game where like you would go fishing and then they would like, you had a small chance to pull up like a alligator, like a hostile enemy. I can't remember, but oh, even like Pokemon does that. Like you're fishing and you fish up a Gyarados and now you have to fight it. Like I don't know how exactly you did that with a dinky little fishing pole that a little 8-year-old kid or whatever your character is most of the time is handling, but apparently you can pull up a goddamn Gyarados and then you go into the water to fight it. You could just back off and say, okay, I'll just stay out of the water and it can't catch me on land. So where did the wax go here? Sheath your weapon in town, only courteous. I'm almost expecting where do they take out their gun? Oh wait, you don't have one ever. Like, it's one thing I even said, oh, you should use it as a stat stick. You should be able to have, you know, like a bow or a gun with 5 agility. But I won't even do that because it's mostly, you know, just in principle, we don't even believe in ranged weapons. I like that extrapolation that there's going to be a lot of quests to pick up here then. Always nice music. I definitely respect the goblins, and there's sort of two cool little statements I made about goblins. Like, on one hand, right, they're always the neutral race, and they're always the peacemakers between the Alliance and the Horde. So it's like the one true defining element of peace in the universe is not, oh, goodness or morality or anything like that they're saying. It's actually just money, right? So money and greed makes peace because the goblins just want you to buy their stuff and not fight. So that's why they're the only peacekeepers in the whole universe. You know, the Alliance and the Horde want to rip each other's throats out and this and that, but you go to Gadget's hand and they don't let you. But again, not for moral reasons, but it comes to the same thing. So sometimes that's the best motivating factor.
Can I help you?
The arcane only corrupts the... But see, that makes it seem so neutral. The fact that this guy is here, like, it's a neutral haven even... Yeah, I guess I don't think of Ratchet that much. Ratchet is biased towards the Horde because it's so close to home as far as Orgrimmar. Keep up on your training or you may find a similar fate. Yeah, and we use arcane shot, so that alone is relevant to us. Har Aman Rygor, you look like to be a strong hunter. You would do well to mind yourself in this area. Touching things you know nothing about or showing disrespect to your elders is just a cause for punishment. You may not respect me or my companions, but you will learn respect of our power if you are foolish enough. Now, enough of the pleasantries. Was there something I can do for you?
What can I do for you?
I mean, at least she's still willing to help. She's just trying to intimidate me, but you are level 50, so I can respect that.
Greetings.
50, 60. That might be the one of the highest levels that we've seen kind of just out in the wild, but not really. Like, it's still a town, but obviously Orgrimmar doesn't count. Listen to your elders, Rygor. If you are strong of will and dedicated, there is no power you cannot control. That kind of applies to being a hunter too, but I think they mean it more as far as controlling the arcane or shadow arts and stuff like that. Everybody gets along here, I guess. Not all Forsaken are driven by Sylvanas as well. Some of us are driven by true power we earn ourselves. Oh, should I report that to Sylvanas when I make my first trip to the Undercity that you're talking like that about her? You're talking about her will like it's the will of the Lich King, like not all Forsaken or undead are bound by the will of the Lich King. Replace one evil master with another, like how Muru says, right? From fucking Black Temple in that trailer. Whether you even like the Warcraft universe or not, some of their cinematics are just fucking classic. I didn't even like that one that much for Wrath of the Lich King, where he's talking about, like, one day you will be king. Like, it's good, but it's not... I'm not as crazy about it as other people. They act like it's the best thing ever, but so many of their cinematics are good. Or like how the classic one makes it look like a PvP focused game. Like all it is just different races fighting each other, like a warlock and a whatever. It's showing all the classes in combat, but it doesn't show anything about the story, anything about the lore, anything about, I don't know, exploration, PvE. It's just all PvP. The machine comes alive at your touch, but then what? We just stare at it? Renix the Ratchet. He's definitely a big quest NPC because I seem to remember him somehow. But did going here even introduce these as new reps, or did I already have it? Part of the Steam Weedle Cartel, this Goblin City provides a neutral haven for those that wish to trade goods and services in the Barrens, including teaching you how to be a warlock or whatever they're doing out there. I don't actually know what that's for, like probably some class quest, but imagine how insulting that would be. You're like an orc warlock and you're learning from some human here in the Barrens. Argent Dawn, obviously. We met in Tirisfal at the Bulwark.
Yeah, what do you want?
Imagine some bear just runs across the zone line and attacks me from there, some 55 bear, but they have enough distance between it. For some reason I thought it was a little bit closer. I got nothing more to teach, not for somebody who knows as much as you do anyway. You horde types need to talk to Nog and Orgrimmar, really. But you do have more for me to teach. What are you talking about? Yeah, I just choose not to do the boomstick because...
Time is money, friend.
Greeting, because I don't believe in ranged weapons. Greetings, if you're here to access Goblin Engineering Schematica, please have your Goblin Engineer membership card ready for verification.
Keep it real.
Yeah, engineering is just one of the most convoluted, annoying professions to do, especially in a run like this. But in this sense, it's just a bonus. Like, I'm not relying on it, but we have it there, and it's sort of fun to sort of flesh out my class, right? I almost was saying it like, oh, I'm Batman, or more like I'm Catman. If I had a pet, I could do that as like a thumbnail, or like Catwoman, since we're female too. But the point is that silver contact. See, all these weird things you should probably buy because you might not be able to get them ever again, or you get them from like only dungeons or weird stuff. But yeah, you want to have like, you go in, you throw a little batarang, you do all like this systematic combination of stuff where everything gets like one shot. You put your trap down, then you throw a bomb, then you send your pet on one guy, then you use wing clip on another guy. Like, it's all very tactical stuff where you're not really that strong, but you have a lot of little utility abilities that you can do. It kind of makes me want to do this just because, like, now that I can always make myself, but, or that I already had a stack of. Silver contact. I don't even know what that is. I don't know what you would ever need it for. At least all this stuff is normal, par for the course. And you even need a blacksmith hammer for some of the stuff that you craft.
Welcome to Ratchet. Hope you're looking for work.
South Sea Freebooters. I sure wish Vice Admiral Grezik did a better job keeping the sea safe for our trading vessels. With all the gold the trade princes have poured into the trade fleets, it takes me off to see so many pirates running willy-nilly, raiding my ships and stealing my goods. I heard that South Sea Freebooters have set up a camp just north of here. They've been a real thorn in my side, and if Grezik won't take care of them, well, maybe you can help me get rid of them. Kill 12 South Sea Brigands and 6 South Sea Cannoneers for Gazlo. Classic Hearthstone card.
Hey there.
That's all it takes to extrapolate on any random named NPC. Sometimes doesn't live up to how, you know, like, wow, you would think this guy's like the most badass thing ever. It's always interesting to see how, you know, who they decide to make sometimes so impactful. Yeah, that's kind of a good benefit for me, actually. The fact that all this engineering stuff is right in my face, but again, I'm not really going to benefit from it too much, or just by looking at me, this guy can tell that I'm out of his league, even though it's not true. Isn't this like where you can write on it yourself? No, it's not. There is some item like that that would almost be good for like writing little RP notes. I'm kind of just burning my money too. What else was I saying? Oh yeah, I love all this little foreshadowing stuff that they do, where it's like, you know, they're referencing like, oh, the trade princes. Well, you don't really see the trade princes for a couple expansions, or it's not really relevant, but it's in the background. So there's all this, you know, sort of buried lore, or like even the Zandalari trolls and the whole like other Darkspear trolls are just one part of the puzzle. So there's all those other ones that you know are out there, or like how Kul Tiras is a place that gets referenced even in a level 1 to 10 horde zone. There's so much lore that's just kind of waiting to be discovered or unleashed in other. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like, it doesn't connect to Orgrimmar for some reason, and you have to go maybe first to the crossroads to do it.
Hey, how you doing?
That little Diablo thing breaks my immersion. There's no such thing as Diablo in this universe. Director Riddle Vox put me in charge of the Union. They shouldn't put that in Classic, though. At least put it in Retail. Riddle Vox put me in charge of the Union Shredder development program. Few months on the job, and I'm already in hot water. I could use your help. See, the venture company's new shredder is better than my latest, from the interchangeable hands to the control grips. My boss has given me a pretty strict deadline, but my boys and I couldn't come up with anything. Nothing was working, so we decided to borrow one of their prototypes. I sent Whizzlecrank to the sludge fen to steal one, but he hasn't gotten back yet. Yeah, and I think he probably didn't die to them. How ironic. He died to that one guy whose name I forgot. The level 19 elite raptor. Something the Leaper. Samo Flange. The venture company has set up a small research facility far to the north of here. It's pretty big, actually. Southwest of the sludge fan. I don't know very much about what they're doing, but they did manage to discover that they're experimenting with something called the Samo Flange. Now, what the heck is a Samo Flange? Well, whatever it is, I want to examine it, so I need someone to go get it. I obtained a copy of the control system operating manual, so you should be able to figure out how to disengage the Samo Flange from it, even though you don't know what it is. Access the control site of the venture company research site. That was the one that I was just in, and then the other one is probably going to have me go rescue that guy, like do some stupid escort quest to go to the sludge fan. The venture company, you see that's almost that raptor doing me a favor. It wasn't trying to threaten me or try to kill me, the elite. It was sort of showing me like, you're not ready for this area yet. If you go there, you'll die. So I feel so afraid of him, I just back off. Otherwise, I would have gone in blindly. So that's sort of the connection you have with Beast as either a druid or a hunter, where he's actually giving you help. His physics. The venture company stole many of the best guys. That's like a Phoenix Wright name. Like, oh, he's a physician. He's a physics expert. So it would be written a little bit differently, but once you pronounce it. Like, one of those names I never got was like understanding. It's just written in such a weird way that when you're reading it, you're not really thinking about the pronunciation. But then when you say it, it's supposed to be like, he's like peace, love, and understanding is how it sounds. But when it's written out, it doesn't seem like that at all. The venture company stole many of the best goblin mines, but from time to time we get the opportunity to steal some back. A while ago, the venture company outfit in Stone Town Mountains hired Gorenzo Wrenchwhistle, a gnome. Their other engineer, Ziz Physics, was also taken aback by this. He was so taken aback, he pleaded with me to find him a new employment with the Tinkers Union. I set him up on his few tasks, but he might need help. Maybe you could look in on him for me. He's stationed at the western edge of Windshire Crag. Now that is in Stone Town, so what is that about? Just random stuff, right? It's saying Windshire Crag like that's somewhere here. It's not telling me that he's... Yeah, like I'm supposed to know where that is, as especially not if you weren't such an experienced player, but just generally. Yeah, just that Windshire Crag place. I'm pretty sure that's the place where all the goblins and stuff are in Stone Town. That has nothing to do with the Barrens. Crane operator Biggle Fuzz. Trouble at the docks. Oops, I had a little mishap, as you can see. Why? What are we seeing? Just the fact that the cargo's there. The morning cargo shipment from Booty Bay was huge. Huge, I say. I've never been so many crits. Never seen that many crates. Well, I was trying to expedite things, so I started unloading a bit more than I can handle. That's when everything came tumbling down. Before I knew what was going on, I saw that menace, Mad Maglish, go running off with a bottle of 99-year-old port. Chased him all the way to the Wailing Caverns. No way I was going in there. Maybe you're brave enough to find him. Crane operator Bigglefuzz and Ratchet wants you to retrieve the 99-year port, who is hiding in the Wailing Caverns. Like, I can't take that quest because I'm not going to be able to do that. Or we'll do it when we're level 60 or something, just as a bonus thing. But yeah, that's always an interesting thing. What if you beat the run, you get to level 60, but then you still want to dick around on your character, and then you die after that? Like, it wouldn't be a complete failure. Like in Pokemon Y, I beat a first playthrough permadeath of Pokemon Y successfully, but then I didn't die after. But like if I go on to continue playing, try to 100% it, and try to catch every Pokemon, what if I died then? It would just kind of put a damper on it. You look like you might be like I was doing that. I had to run away from a fight, like some sort of duelist academy thing, trainer academy. You look like you might be needing passage across the Great Sea. You've come to the right place. This is the birth of the Maiden's Fancy. Find this passenger ship to travel these waters. When she arrives, just climb aboard, and the next thing you know, you will find yourself basking in the sandy beaches of Stranglethorn, which is the nightmare for me. As much as I like beasts as a, hunter beast enthusiast, that's a little bit above our pay grade right now. Miner's fortune, being wharfmaster of a busy port like Ratchet, I keep my finger on the pulse of information. I know all about the exchange of goods and money between here and Booty Bay. The latest bit of news, yeah, that's the only downside of Gadget Zan, is it should be a little bit close to the water to be a port city. Those are always the best. Right, because those are the other two goblin hot zones. And they're directly referencing each other. I'm sure they mentioned Ratchet a lot in Booty Bay. Keep my finger on the pulse of information. I know all, and see, that's part of what makes it good, although that might sound like apologist stuff, is that there's a lot of imperfect, inconsistent stuff in this game, like, it's like the Barrens. The Barrens isn't a zone that the Alliance has an equivalent to, because they're more spread out between their zones. So here they just give you a huge one, mainly because probably their other zones were unfinished, or they couldn't figure out one to give to the Torrens, so they just said, we're going to lump all three of you together. So it almost makes the Torrens feel like a welfare class 2, not because they share the starting zone, but because they don't really have their own 10 to 20 zone. I know all about the exchange of goods between here and Booty Bay. The latest bit of news I've heard is about the venture company's Boulder Lodge mine in the northeast of Sludge Fen. One of the miners discovered an emerald the size of your fist. I know a few buyers who'd be interested in getting their hands on something like that, and I'd be willing to go half and half on the sale. Retrieve the cast eye emerald from one of the Venture Co. overseers or enforcers for wharf masters. So just kill them and steal it. What a great, yeah, like the moral ambiguity. Like, oh, this game should have been canceled for this quest. Like, if you look back on it, that's a morally reprehensible thing to do. What does that have to do with anything? Just murder this guy and steal his thing for no reason. If only you knew which one of the miners had the emerald, I'd walk. It'd be a walk in the park. Not saying they don't make you do bad things or even who you're killing, like, oh, it's justifiable because they're all Venture Co. bad guys anyway, and I just killed a whole bunch of them regardless, but this gives oh, those are bottles. I thought that was like meat somehow. Or is it? I can't even tell. Yeah, that would give my buddy something to munch on. Using the bank here is actually quite convenient. I guess I didn't really think of it. Control operating manual, console operating manual. Venture Co. document 534/9. The camouflage control console can, yeah, see, this is the kind of stuff, wow, 4 pages. Like reading every book in Skyrim, but I wouldn't read it as soon as I got it. The camouflage control console can be used to automatically regulate the flow of fuels, gases, liquids, and related machinery. Once initial configuration has been completed, it should run worry-free with minor maintenance. Brief listing of control console components from left to right. Main power lever. The engaged position, you need like some graphs and charts to actually show these people, though, blueprints. Enables the camouflage. The control mechanism will not automatically disengage when the lever is on the off position. This will merely begin the cooldown process, at which point it will take roughly 1 to 2 minutes, depending on the situation, to turn off. Important note, the main power lever can only be manipulated when 3 control valves on the actual machinery have been disengaged. These valves can be shut off in any order. The first is the main control valve, which can be found at the base of the large vertical smokestack. Next, the fuel control valve, I like how he highlights them, like that, bolds them, can be found on the large pipe which leads from the fuel tanks. There should be 3 of them to the smokestack. Finally, the regulator valve can be found on the lower of the 2 large. Like, I'm sure this is going to be a puzzle-solving thing where you'll have to actually memorize what it's telling you to be able to solve a quest. By which I mean absolutely not. But it's interesting how much of this you see in games like that goes unread. Like Anthem is an infamous example. Everybody was mad. Like, why are you reading the flavor text in this game when I'm doing my first playthrough permadeath of Anthem? And it's just like, either I'm going to do it or I just won't play the game at all, right? You have to, which is not really true of how I played this game, but I guess MMOs fall in a different category because there's just way too much stuff to even worry about. To the smokestack, finally, the regulator valve can be found on the lower of the 2 large cylindrical tanks that flow into the smokestack. If number 2 fuel gauges displays the current pressure in the primary, secondary, and tertiary fuel tanks. That's one of my favorite words that isn't used enough, actually. Tertiary. Like, is there a word for 4 that's like better than just saying 4th or 3rd? Quadiary. There must be some other thing. Flow gauge displays the current rate of flow within the system. Flow controls. Number 4, increase or decrease the flow rates. This is automatically controlled by the camouflage control mechanism. Number 5, temperature gauge displays the operating temperature of the system in general. Some intern had to work and actually write that out. And this was back in the day where Blizzard wasn't even that huge of a company that they could afford to do that. The one thing that always declines over time is effort. Like, the one thing that games like this show is, like, they went above and beyond. They didn't have to make it this good. If you gave me a quest, at least I could sleep in here to justify my whole presence here. Hi, the workshop isn't mine, no. But one day after I finish training, I'm going to be an inventor just like my hero, Marvin Rivets here. You should almost look at their models up close when you're reading the quest text like this. But this is kind of a good RP-friendly thing to do. Just like my hero, Marvin Rivetseeker. You've never heard of him? Well, it just so happens that he left quite some time ago to study some ancient troll ruins. Oh, wow. We feel flattered. He kept talking about it. He left in a Zeppelin. Not quite sure about exactly where he went. Like, where would you go in a Zeppelin to explore troll ruins? It must be STV, but you could have just taken the boat here. Or he could have gone to the hinterlands. Like, we'll find him somewhere randomly out in the world. He kept talking about, not quite sure exactly where he went. Oh, to Neris. She's even telling me. Hanar Raisin, Hennick Tenkaris, Haner Ran Isani. Shakes her head. No, that's not it. You wouldn't need to be an expert on geography to know simply that Tenaris is a place that exists, that even has a goblin town in it. Oh yeah, I don't even associate that there's troll ruins there, but, well, no shit, it's all Farrak and stuff, but I mean, I'm thinking about just more so in the zone, but there are some with ogres and stuff in them. Trolls are the OG race of the whole universe, so... Right, so they even became elves, night elves and blood elves, which is almost weird when I first heard it, but... Brewmaster Drawn... He's really drowning in his liquor. Plate and chain. Can't wait till we get to level 40 and we can wear mail, but it's very likely that we won't have very good options when that first happens. Is there anything here that we could sell? There'd have to be like a general goods vendor that I would do that, so I almost shouldn't have bothered. There might be something here that's really good. Like, even this is better than what I have. Like, that Forest Spirit is actually super relevant as a troll, because you regenerate 10% of your health in the middle of combat, and that will be very relevant because 4 agility, 2 stamina. Like, that's a big deal, but I don't even have enough money to do it. Fuck. You really have to cherish these kind of upgrades because you're not going to get them ever. Just, you know, greens are very rare to come by. Some of the stuff I'm wearing is from one of those vendors in Silverpine that had the same purpose.
Talk to me.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I'll start doing that. I don't know why I just thought of that. Yes, 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 you're the troll I'm looking for. So, sit. We may have a moment to discuss. I am sitting. Just to show we're abiding by his request. We've seen enough trouble with raptors already today, and even last time. I'm still scared of them. We've been traumatized by raptors like 3 times in this playthrough now. 1, because we were starving our first pet because we didn't know how to... Our reach exceeded our grasp as a hunter, so we didn't know how to feed it yet, so it just abandoned us because we were starving it. Then the second time was because last time we aggroed the 3 together because that one was calling for help and shrieking, and then the last time was just now where we almost just run into that elite that maybe was a blessing in disguise. The raptors of the Barrens are smarter than the raptors in other lands, and I think all the smarts is hiding in their horns. If so, then I could grind those horns into powder and use it to make smart drinks. I could sell them for a fortune, and you could help me. Find me intact raptor horns from Sunscale Scythe Claws. They roam in the southern Barrens and the northern Barrens near the border of Ashendale Forest, which means they must be high levels because they're bordering on, obviously, the higher level zones. Gather 5 intact raptor horns from Sunscale Scythe Claws and bring them to me, but then again, high level for here is still acceptable because,
Keep it real.
you know... We're almost level 20, so that's about as high as it's going to go anyway. Eat moss spider eggs. Spider egg omelets are a new fad in Booty Bay. The problem is Booty Bay's got no eggs. What about there's so many raptor eggs and different things over there. I smell an opportunity in Windshire Crag and Sishir Cannon in the Stone Town Mountains. Yeah, see, this would be your first clue as to where the hell Windshire Crag is, because that other guy just talks about it so casually. Oh yeah, just go to that place that you should totally know where it is, which I obviously do, but just in a general sense, this guy's now filling in the context for you of where he wants you to go. In the northwest lives the deep moss spider. Bring me its eggs and I'll pay a bundle. In Windshire Crag, the eggs will be clustered under what trees remain. And I remember spending a lot of time there as like a low-level, maybe paladin, and sort of just trolling people and killing them, walking up and down. And what I would do is I would never really twink when doing that. Like I did the same thing in Red Ridge as like a 12 to 15 undead rogue, and I would actually level while doing that. So I'll just kill random enemies while I wait for somebody to gank or kill, but you're not truly ganking them degenerately because... I was wearing whites and stuff. I wasn't even in greens. I wasn't even, you know, it was very honorable. And it was me against the world. Like, I'm alone. But still, they would send level 60s to kill me, which is no sense of honor. I'm going in there against all odds, basically. In the Windshire Crags, the eggs will be clustered under what trees remain. What, after your kind completely obliterated them? The Venture Co. shenanigans, although they make it pretty equal opportunity. It's not just goblins, but it's their greed and their drive that kind of pushes that company forward, but everybody's a part of it. Pay a bundle, they're clustered under the trees, and Sishir Cannon, I don't know where that actually is. Well, if you have a weak stomach, then maybe you should just collect the ones in Windshire Crag. Isn't that like where some harpies are, I think? Bring 15 deep moss eggs. Oh, I think I know what that is. It's just like off to the left as you're walking up Red Ridge. Or not Red Ridge. Yeah, why do I know that so well even as an Alliance player? I spent a lot of time in Stone Talon and in Desolus. I love Desolus, even though it's not a very friendly, you know, sort of approachable leveling zone. People probably hate it for that reason. I just love the whole aesthetic of it and everything. I remember my first level 60 by mage, I was leveling there a lot from between like 30 and 40 or whatever tidbits. Like some of these levels, some of these areas aren't the best questing zones, but they're sort of just cool to be in from an aesthetic standpoint or lore standpoint or whatever. I forget what even makes it like made the land like that. I don't know if it's to do with the Legion or that's more like Felwood. There is a pretty good explanation, or it's like, oh, it's something to do with Moradon, but I don't really know because what would have caused the land to just go completely horrible like that? And of course, it's like the Centaur homeland, and so, you know, that's almost like a that's what it was, right? That was like the ancillary Torn zone, even though there's no way directly from from Mulgore to there, but that was like a prime hub of the Torrens, and then it just got completely messed over somehow. So it would have been lush green forest like that, which I think is what happens in Cataclysm. That's a great way to turn back the clock and sort of show you what some of these zones were like before, not unlike
potential customer.
wait, didn't we just see this one? Not unlike how like probably Deadwind Pass and stuff could have changed in Cataclysm for the better. I've played retail a few times since Cataclysm came out, but I've only seen like, that's all I do. I'll just kind of fly around on Ashes of Alar or something and just kind of look at stuff out in the world. Level 22. I almost want to kill him, but if I don't have a reason to, I don't see why I would. Isaac Pearson. Like how we have that Gammon and Gammon the cow in Orgrimmar. Obviously a Ganondorf reference, I guess. Federal goods, actually just what I needed. All this stuff that I'm sort of unwilling to part with, even though it's just taking up space. I mean, this is kind of trash because what was the thing that you could write on? I'm sure I even had one too, but now I forgot. We literally would only have 6 mag slots out there, which kind of hurts our money capacity too. Trade supplies, or maybe there's something here. It's like a note. I kind of do want one of those on me just for the sake of it, as if I even have room. I can't remember where you actually get those.
Have a good one.
It is some sort of either parchment or it's just like a very specific note, so you can just like type stuff in there, which you might not think will have special meaning, but I could give it some sort of purpose. We could make like little diary ASMR notes to have to read through, as if reading the books alone isn't enough. So this leads to all the pirates and stuff out there. Captain Thalothas Brightsons. This is one of the few like high elf models that sort of foreshadow the coming of Blood Elves. The guns of Northwatch. Yet another ship of my fleet has been lost to the overzealous humans at Northwatch Hold. Those bastards must be dealt with. This is double foreshadowing too, that the goblins and the Blood Elves will both join the Horde. But this one's a little bit of a far-fetched thing. Yeah, it's like, why am I dealing with an elf? I thought elves were alliance. Those bastards must be dealt with. Their paranoia has them in a state of frenzy, trigger-happy, reckless louds, or shooting at anything in their sights. Travel south along the merchant coast of the Hold and lay siege to their forces. Bring me the medals of their soldiers as proof, and for the love of my fleet, slay Captain Fairmount and her overzealous cannoneers. Captain Thalothas Brightson of Ratchet wants you to collect 10 Theramore medals, Theramore, making me scared. Like, yeah, I'm not on my fucking level 60, and I wouldn't even do that because I was a mage. Or, I mean, I was an Alliance player anyway. But that would be a fun area to attack as Horde. That's like the one bonus, like attacking a city, but not really, because Jaina is there with her little skull elite capability. Like, she's a city boss, which I guess the equivalent of that for Alliance would be like Rexar, but I forget. Yeah, I don't really remember doing that even. I'm sure I did at some point, because I love those sort of world PvP and group stuff. I would love to raid the cities, but it was pretty damn hard to do. And so if I ranked them, I would say Thunderbluff was the easiest, because nobody gave a shit about it. It's a garbage town. It sucks, right? His feet are just kind of going through the floor there. Yeah, nobody cares about Thunderbluff, and it's kind of isolated, and you can jump off and use like a slow fall potion and stuff, light feather, all this kind of stuff. to get out of there. So there's a lot of benefits with that. Orgrimmar is middle of the road. It is packed, but there's ways to kind of sneak through, go from the Ashen Vale Bridge and stuff, and so just take care of it quickly. But of course, you have to deal with both then, like Vol'jin. And then the hardest, for some reason, I thought was, I mean, you have to deal with Very Monstrous too, which is saving her trouble later. Like, you know, he's gonna betray you anyway. We're trying to help out. But yeah, that one for some reason was really hard to do because you had to go through the Undercity in such a contrived, conspicuous way. You can go through the tunnel still, but like every city has some kind of back entrance that way, right? Darnassus kind of doesn't, or it has like probably multiple portals that I can't remember because I hate Darnassus anyway. But in that sense, I guess Thunderbluff is better because you do have to go up by like an elevator so they can monitor it very clearly to see who's coming up. But Orgrimmar, you can take the little sneaky bridge on the backside, and Undercity, you can go through like where the bat comes out of that big green cave, basically. Once you just collect 10 Theramore medals and slay Captain Fairmount, Cannoneer Wesson, and Cannoneer Smythe. Guns we don't use. I mean, even stuff with spirit and other stats would be fine. The problem is I'm going to ignore some sort of thing attacking me from behind if I'm out in the wild and doing that. So you should only really do that RP type of gaze in towns when you're talking to people. General goods. What was at the top? And this is just some random guy, which I don't even know what he's doing. He'll turn out that he's working with the pirates or something, so you'll have to have a good reason to do that. I don't even want to make this guy feel jealous by purchasing another slot, but I'm sure I'll want to get another one at some point, but who knows? I can sometimes be quite committal. Zizek, Fisherman, Fish Bobble, increase your fishing by 100. Like, it's only 2, and you only get one of them. Strong Fishing Pole I already have, right? 13 to 21 plus 5. Yeah, so this we got in goddamn Senjin Village. Because trolls are expert fishermen because, you know, you live by the water. It only makes sense. It's like, it takes me back to one of those debates about, like, foods and stuff. Like, what foods are considered American? We just stole everybody else's foods and this and that, right? I mean, corn and certain things like that. But it's like, these rugs always freak me out. I never really paid much attention to the face on there. But no, it's like, no country really owns any kind of food. And it's kind of foolish to take pride and stuff like that, because of the simple fact that you got more books to read. And this is how we'll subliminally farm rest experience, even though we're not allowed to actually log out in such a place. Innkeeper, come in, just don't sit too close to the stove. It hasn't exploded yet today, but just to be safe, I think you should sit elsewhere. You got a lot of different fish, nothing special. Morning Glory Dew, there were a whole bunch of memes about that. I don't know why, like in one of Nim's videos or something. We have 2 different books to read. We can't sit on these, though, while we do it. Yeah, like, it's pointless to take pride in... Sounds like there's some kind of whispering. Like, ambiance, but the problem is that doesn't work because there's nobody in here. It's more like just creepy and a ghost ambiance. It'd make more sense in, like, Arthas' throne room. Like, oh, somebody's moving a plate and whatnot. This is just, like, generic ambiance that has no place right now. I guess I never really stopped to listen like this, or there's always music, so you never really pay attention. So this is kind of a bad thing, actually. It shouldn't be like that unless there's actually something going on here. Or like you could hear them upstairs getting stuff ready. Like there's literally 0 NPCs in here that could be potentially making that sound. But yeah, it's pointless to take pride in your food as like, oh, this country is associated with that. Like, oh, Japan likes seafood. But it's only because they're surrounded by water. So it's like insisting upon some sort of nearness postulate where, you know, it's just reactionary. Because of geography, you're going to take pride and act like that was a choice or that's something that defines you. It's the opposite. You dealt with it because it was something you had to do, but you shouldn't be proud of such things like non-choice reaction. It's anything but an identifying characteristic. Right, but that's the whole superficiality aspect. Sometimes it's like people take pride or focus on things that have the least amount of impact and neglect the things that do have impact. Like, for example, like how did I describe it? Like they care about their tattoos and their clothing choice and their piercings and all these kind of superficial things. They will take pride in that, and you'll get a sense of individuality from that. But then when it comes to actual things that impact your life, you won't care as much, or you'll just accept it and act like, oh, I can't control that, or so you'll let that be and neglect all the important things. But then you'll overcompensate by trying to express yourself in those ways that don't actually have any impact on you. Mount Hyjal and Illidan's gift. The few night elves that survived the horrific explosion rallied together on... You know what? We'll be in Ratchet. I don't necessarily have to read these now, but I have to remember that they're there. We already read our one book of the day. That should be a requirement. If you read at least one book, but then we'll have to be going into Scarlet Monastery to look at some of them, which is kind of dangerous to do. We can rest here, but who gave me a quest that was like in a house or next to a house that would justify my ability to sleep there? Samuel Flange was this guy, or like what even seems like a fitting, I don't know, what seems like a fitting place to be. We could go in that one, but that doesn't really feel suited to sleep in. I can almost sleep with that goblin chick because we're such an aspiring engineer ourselves, and one day we'll promise to find that guy for you who went to Daenerys. Yeah, this doesn't feel like a suitable place to actually sleep. We'll sleep alongside that goblin chick, and she won't do anything weird to us in our sleep, I guess, unlike the undead. It's sort of like just a theory, too, even in RP. Like, we're just speculating that he could have done that, but it doesn't mean that he actually did anything to us. This one you can't actually go inside of. Or no, it's just, like, normally you would just sleep in the inn, but I'm even avoiding rest, too. So the whole, yeah, this is fitting, I guess. But we should have to share one bed because she has to sleep, too. Do we want to position him in such a way that... This is kind of weird, but we'll have to deal with it because this is what it means to be the stay, and then I could sleep kind of at a similar angle, or how would we fit? Your head can't really go through that. Archimonde's return in the fight. Yeah, we have a lot of books to read next time. That does still kind of work. So he's keeping guard on me. We only take up one bed so she doesn't mind. We don't get a quest from her specifically, but maybe we'll promise to find that guy one day, and we're sort of in good with the other engineers. We're dealing with the miners. We're dealing with whatever, finding the guy in the crag, so she knows all that, I guess, and that would justify her letting us sleep there. So, yeah, we didn't really do anything in the Barrens because it's such an overwhelming zone, but we sort of swept the coast. Now we can start to fill in some holes here. Like, next time should definitely be to look for the crossroads. I just don't like to rush into it. Like, that's the first obvious thing that you would do. Like, oh, just go to the crossroads first. So I've been here like 5 times now, but I kind of just go in and go out. Just like, we're mainly just exploiting it because I had so many huts and houses to rest in that we sort of just use one and then we move on.